What led to Rand's closure was the Pentagon Papers. That infuriated Nixon. And he cut Rand's funding. And that sent Keith spiraling. He just was furious. And that was the beginning of the end. And that was the beginning of ISI. He just said, okay, that's it. I got to do something.
He had a vision of the projects that were coming down the pipeline. And Rand was not going to be the sure thing anymore. And he just felt like he needed to move and create a new type of Rand in an environment where it was safe and allow the engineers to do the work that they were doing at Rand and beyond. He didn't want to just create a twin of Rand. He wanted to take the best of Rand, but add to it. He was born in Denver, and a lot of the family members were in San Diego, and pre-war and during the war, they were all down there. And so my dad migrated to California, and so that was the family bond on his side, obviously. And then the war took him in a different direction for a little bit, and then coming back, he went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and got the degree, and then went right into Rand.
As a teenager, he was a gearhead. He worked in gas stations. He rebuilt cars. He learned everything there was to learn about mechanics, electrical systems. When he joined the Navy in 1942, he was made aviation electronics mate. And he learned leading edge technologies like radar, aircraft electronic systems, and he made rank very fast because he was good at it. He was very good at managing electronics and people. And that spilled over to his college degree in mathematics at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, as well as a degree in humanities. There was a professor there that recommended him for Rand. And so when he graduated, he got married, settled in at Rand as a mathematician. He started as a computer operator. He was really a polymath. He was probably a genius. He could do math in his head like most people could. I don't know. He was that bright. He was just that quick. He was amazing. I mean, utterly amazing. He had his A&E license. So he was considered for the airlines, perhaps. But because he had a degree in mathematics and a secondary degree in humanities and a recommendation to go to work from Cal Poly at Rand, I think that put him over the top. He interviewed twice at Rand. The second time he impressed Paul Armour, and Paul Armour recommended him. You gotta understand, for Keith, going to work at Rand was like getting paid to go to grad school. He never went on to get a PhD or a master's even, because it was a moot point. He was friends with Edward Teller, probably knew Oppenheimer. It's just a stratosphere of thinkers. He had a picture of John Van Neumann in his office. Keith was extremely tight-lipped. His only friends were people who worked at Rand. And the only people he really associated with were people like Chuck Porter, who was an air conditioning engineer, Willis Ware, Dr. Ware, Alan Newell. Those are the only people he could relax around. He was very classified. As I got older and took him to the airport, I asked him, "Where are you going, Dad?" He said, "I can't say."
My father never really talked a lot about any sort of promotions or anything like that. He was very humble and quiet, and I think probably drilled in his head was, we just don't talk about these things because of the security clearances. In fact, one of my real memories of Dad at Rand was every year 2 FBI agents showed up at our door to go through the security clearance. And as an 8-year-old kid who liked to watch the TV show FBI, I thought it was pretty cool to have, FBI agents come in and
I don't think Mr. Vogel has ever seen a clumsier FBI surveillance.
He'll probably teach us a lesson by staying as far away as possible from Carl Jordan, wouldn't you think?
he obviously was very well respected at Rand Corporation. And I think, again, part of his success was it's all about doing things right. And that's another thing he really instilled, do things right. And I think one of the things also that made Dad unique was, in all these years of technology, a gold mine of potential monetization of any of those technologies. And he did never got sideways or, oh, I'll do this on the side. It was all about what was best for the country. And he knew that entrepreneurs in Apple and Microsoft were taking some of this stuff and building great companies and great fortunes. But that was okay with him because the mission was to create and distribute technology to help the country.
Keith was frustrated. From 70 on, he was increasingly frustrated, came home frustrated. It was funding. The war was going badly. Technology at Rand was, I think he and Willis Ware were both like, He was 52 years old, 2 boys approaching out of the military or college. He had to do something.
From my perspective, it was the Pentagon Papers, Dan Ellsberg, and it really wasn't about the freedom of information and things like that. The collateral damage was it exposed Rand. It shined a light on Rand Corporation at a time where there was a lot of unrest and uneasiness, and Rand was tied, in a sense, with the government. The politics, which was the second collateral damage, resulted in Washington saying, we're not happy about this with Ellsberg, let's cut Rand's funding. So you can imagine Rand Corporation, private company, well run, very buttoned up, and all of a sudden having their cheese move quite a bit.
He went to UCLA at his own risk. He risked his whole career. He just threw the dice. Went to UCLA, ran into nothing but bureaucracy, and we'll have to study the issue. He came over to USC, talked to Caprillion. Caprillion had a decision in 3 days.
One of the strategic decisions he made and what he sold Dr. Caprillion was ISI needed to be off campus. And it wasn't an ego thing, it wasn't anything like that. It was mainly because he saw that potentially if ISI was on campus and there was campus unrest, that the light could be shined on ISI on campus and then history will be repeating itself. So he said, look, Marina Del Rey is a great spot. He picked out the building. He says, well, I also want a unique environment, something where we could attract the best people, because he saw the competition, Xerox PARC, MIT, and so there was a lot of competition for the top computer science research and engineers, and he wanted to create a really great environment and culture, and that building was that.
ISI was far away from the SC flagpole enough to stand on its own. And that's what he intended to do. He wanted it to be free from sort of political influence of main campus and free to stand on its own. Because he didn't want to be held to a bureaucratic approach to ISI being run by committees.
Credit to Dr. Caprillion. He saw that and he bought into it. You got to give a lot of respect to USC, because the easy decision would have been, well, let's just keep it on campus so we can keep it all in the fold. We don't have to worry about upsetting other departments and things like that and getting caught up in all the politics that naturally happens at any university. That was one of the deal points, and Caprilia made it happen.
Keith came home that day at 5 o'clock. He popped a bottle of champagne and said, "I'd been fired and I quit." He said, "I'm just positive." He was totally giddy. He was so damn glad to be out of there. He said, "I'm going to miss my friends," but he said, "I'm going to start something else, and it's going to be fun." And it was fun. It wasn't like RAND in a sense. It was more like the RAND and the Institute for Advanced Studies. It was a place where people could come and be creative and have fun and be a part of a team. And they could think the way they wanted to think and think outside the box as much as they could.
He just hit the ground running. He had a team that was phenomenal. Tom Ellis was a gentleman, very quiet, very smart, but he was a good manager. He could really manage the engineers. What I saw, and I don't know structurally how it was, but Tom, I think it really enabled my father to be able to be in Washington, D.C., while the kids were at home doing the work they were supposed to be doing. And he really helped put out probably some fires, but it was go time. Friday evening was the celebration. Saturday morning, on to the ISI project. Sometimes you need to take the risk. My dad was 52 years old, and he could have stayed at RAND Corporation and probably not been happy, but he could have just ridden it out. You know, I was 12 at the time. My brother was 15. And the moment he stepped out to even just pitch the concept to UCLA and USC, he was at risk, because if USC or UCLA did not accept him, I think there was a very high probability that it would have got back to RAND Corporation, and that probably would have been game over for him at RAND Corporation. The other risk, of course, is taking on a brand new institute and all that that implies. And this is where the entrepreneurial aspect of my father came into play, because he was able to construct a team quickly, delegate the responsibilities, so to match a very aggressive timeline to get up and running. I mean, this happened, I think in May of '72. I was babysitting with my brother on New Year's Eve of 1972. The entire floor of mainframes, they were all up and running. Air conditioning systems up, everything was up. Young, energetic, smart people from the Danny Cohens, Dr. Balzers of the world, to, the administrative staff. They were invaluable, because again, word processing was just getting going, and they had to do a lot of work, and they just loved the environment.
He took some guys from RAND with him. I think he tried to take a lot of people in the computer science department with him, because they were looking at losing their jobs, perhaps, with the funding cuts. I think he put some pressure on him and said, "Look, if you go with me, we're going to start a new venture. It's going to be wild, it'll be interesting, and it'll be fun." And I think that he sold them on this new venture that would be like RAND without all the politics. He delivered. He knew the colonels, the generals, the directors in DC. He knew a lot of people in DC. He had terrific connections all right up here. He knew where to go. When he was younger, he used to wear Western suits at DC. He ditched them and got Brooks Brothers and really nice suits.
He always dressed very well. He learned if you're going to be promoting things, you've got to look the part. He and Vince Cerf were probably the two most eloquent and best dressed gentlemen in the computer industry. They were just both class acts. But that was part of the whole plan to make sure that he could talk to and earn the respect of the wide variety of people he had to work with in Washington to convince them to do the projects and get the funding. And then, of course, he had to come back and get his team rolling on it.
Keith was buttoned up. He was buttoned up all the time. He was the administrator. He was the fundraiser. He was the development officer.
He even got invited by Chief Justice Warren Burger to have lunch with the Chief Justice, because Warren Burger wanted to get an idea of the potential impact of technology on the law. It was supposed to just be a 2-hour lunch. Now, it happened on a Friday, and my dad always flew home on Friday, the 5 o'clock flight out of Dulles. And it was getting to the point where my dad had to go, and he basically had to tell the Chief Justice, I'm sorry, Chief, but I have to go home to my family. It's Friday. And the Chief says, no, this is too interesting of a discussion. I'm going to drive you to the airport so we can continue it.
His vision for ISI was an advanced lab to work on DoD projects that he could fund by going back to DC on a regular basis and get DoD dollars from DARPA and the Pentagon to fund ISI, as well as other sources. I think that going from being sort of an entrepreneur engineer to being an administrator was a change for him, because he had Danny Cohen, he had a lot of people who were incredibly bright and competitive, and they let him know that they were bright and competitive. And I think that was a shock to him in a way, because I think it was everybody plays together. Everybody is in the game together. We were all focused on the Cold War, nuclear war, cryptology, God knows what else.
I don't think they really understood all the things that he did at RAND and all the impacts he had in the technology. And my dad's not one of these people that's going to say, hey, I did this, I did that. And, but one of the sacrifices that he made was he stepped away from his research, his engineering gene, his passion to manage this group, because he knew for the good of the country and good for ISI that he really needed to do that. And I think, unfortunately, people started to view him more as a manager instead of a really great engineer. And to me, it was always short-sighted, because okay, how much could my father create on his own versus if he had 10 engineers creating and he's managing? How are we better off? With my father just doing that or him managing the 10 engineers? It kind of haunted him a little bit down the road. And, when he was up for the National Academy, it went back and forth. A lot of people thought, he's just an administrator. I mean, that hurt him. Well, he did ISI and managed that. But no, he did all these other things at RAND.
He was building a culture at ISI to do things that were pushing the bleeding edge. Anything that was beyond rational comprehension sometimes was his bailiwick.
It was not only just his energy, but his energy was contagious throughout ISI. You could just feel the culture of energy.
You are now connected with the ISI ARPANET digital voice conferencing system.
Here's Danny now.
Randy, sorry I'm late. Are the others still on?
Yes, they're all here and can hear you. Now remember, Danny, you have to be on an ARPANET phone so we can secure the conference.
This was a hypothetical conference using features of two real systems developed at the USC Information Sciences Institute.
When he took on something, he always wanted to do it right, but not in a left, right type of thing. For me, it was kind of osmosis, how I just observed him and the habits of success that I saw that he did. Get up, work hard, and really love what you do. He was working to 80. My mom and my biggest fear, I think my brother as well, was what happens to Dad when he retires. A great career. I mean, he ran, and then ISI, and then he knew when to say, it's time to leave ISI, and then he joined, Robert Kahn and Vinsurf at CNRI to continue the path of the research, especially around MEMS and nanotechnology. I think one of the things that helped ISI was he didn't hang around ISI after he left. He allowed Herb Shore and the team to take it from there. And that's very hard for an entrepreneur in a sense, because this was his baby, to walk away and say, hey, it's in good hands. Let the next team advance the ball forward. And that was Dad as well. I think he'd be very proud of the accomplishments and the delivery of the technology that he knew about 20 years ago. Because everything my dad kind of worked on really came to fruition, to the public knowledge and impact, usually 20 years later. He'd be very pleased about what USC is doing, not only at ISI, but in all of the computing and engineering areas, and how they're being integrated together and being more collaborative. Because that was one of the key things he felt was important, was the collaboration. I think he'd be interested to see how, in this society, how artificial intelligence is going to be rolled out, because it's a really big disruptive technology and it's coming very quickly. And I think that's the difference. We've always had disruptive technology all through the years. Those technologies we kind of eased into it. This is coming very quickly, and we have to be really, really smart at all levels to make sure that this technology is implemented the right way to help as many people as possible.
I say USC is growing a lot. I think ISI is perfect where it is. I think the moonshot for computing is absolutely essential. I think we need to get lots of young Americans interested and involved. This country should be looking at bleeding edge technology for America, not to export it or sell it or give it away needlessly.
He'd be concerned about American engineering. We've outsourced in this country quite a bit, and that has some good cost benefits, but it's also had some expensive costs. And I think he'd be very passionate about putting together a coalition of American engineers to promote and advocate on American engineering. And he'd probably say, we need to educate the country on the importance of engineering, not just the politicians and things like that. We need to promote it in order to try to inspire the next group of engineers who might be in grade school or high school.
I think my dad would say, understanding technology is key to the future, but also understanding humans is important too, and what drives us.
What will separate the really good engineers and the great engineers are the great engineers will know how to socialize their ideas. They know how to deal with conflict in a positive way. There's no point of having conflict if you cannot resolve it in a way where both parties can really get back to doing what they're supposed to be doing. And he was really brilliant at that. So engineers today, or potential entrepreneurs, really need to have a lot of tools in their belts to manage an environment like this. And it is promoting, selling, such a dirty word, but my dad could really sell those projects. And it wasn't sleazy selling, it was intelligent selling. It was promoting. It was working through the issues, seeing the other side, and creating a culture where people could absolutely feel like this is like a great place to work. And this is an environment where I can excel and not be constrained. And that's a magician in a sense. Those are all different capabilities, all unique. And the engineers today who are studying here at USC, if they can learn those things, they'll go so much farther, be happier, and really make an even better impact in the world.
I think that ISI has a terrific opportunity to influence the future of the world in a positive way.